Hi guys, Mr. Stevens here. We are going to jump right back into Son of the Morning Star, Custer and the Little Bighorn by Evan S. Connell. We'll jump right in where we left off. I hope you guys are still enjoying it. And away we go. The judge advocate at Helena and the provost marshal both were good friends of the Benteen the Younger, which establishes a most unusual coincidence. Mills, who had preserved the features of this articulate and complex individual as meticulously as they are apt to be preserved after such a long time, believes that Fred Benteen secretly conspired with federal authorities to guarantee his father's safety for the rest of the war. In custody, the old man would be safe. Young Fred served the North with considerable distinction. The list of skirmishes, full-scale engagements, sieges, raids, and captures in which he participated requires several inches of type in his biography. Bolivar, Pea Ridge, Batesville, Kickapoo Bottom, Milliken's Bend, Pleasant Hill, Little Osage, Montevideo, Greenville, Selma, Columbus, etc. Cited for gallant and meritorious service, steadily promoted, recommended for brevet rank of brigadier general on June 6, 1865, although this recommendation was not accepted. Then came the Indian fights, Saline, Washita, Little Bighorn, Nez Perce campaign. From the beginning of his association with the 7th Cavalry, he mistrusted and disliked Custer. He was 5 years older, and no man enjoys subservience to his junior, but Benteen's antipathy was nourished by something else. He greatly admired the 3rd Cavalry commandant, whose division was assigned to Custer in 1864. This historically insignificant change of command meant a lot to Benteen. From then on, he resented the prominent young general. They met on January 29, 1867 at Fort Riley. Benteen was disgusted by Custer's pretense. At various times he had gotten to know a number of generals, he said, but never before was he subjected to such bragging. Custer invited him back for a little dime ante poker the next day. 5 or 6 officers sat on this amiable gathering. For a while, as Benteen later wrote to the celebrated photographer D.F. Barry, quote, "Custer clawed at everything in sight." Elizabeth stood behind him with her hands resting on his shoulders, or, quote, "in his bosom," by which Benteen evidently meant that she slipped a hand through the buttons of his tunic. She watched her husband rake in the chips and gently reprimanded him, saying, quote, "Now you must give them their money back." Not long after she went to bed, 2 of the gamblers dropped out, and Custer proposed raising the ante to $2.50. The survivors played until dawn, at which time Benteen had to quit because he was officer of the day. On several occasions he wrote to Barry. Custer left the table and visited his wife, quote, "to get the sinews of war to prosecute the game, and when reveille sounded, I had all the money." Not only did Benteen have everything on the table, he pocketed an IOU for $150 from Captain Weir. This poker game, after he had been at Fort Riley just 3 days, did not win him any new friends. Nobody likes a winner. Besides, Weir was so close a friend of the general, a member of the so-called Custer gang. Nor could he get along with Major Reno. Benteen attributed this to an argument at a post-trader's establishment where, for some reason that is not now clear, he called Reno a son of a bitch and slapped his face. In regard to this, and quite a few other disputes, Professor Edgar Stewart had described Benteen's preeminent characteristic as, quote, "jealousy of and hostility to almost everybody and everything." Such a comment makes him easy to remember, but of course it is an oversimplification. 1 or 2 vivid strokes of the pen do not delineate a man. General E.A. Garlington, in those days a 7th Cavalry lieutenant, called him proud and vain, not a steady drinker, but one who occasionally started hoisting a cup and did not quit for several days, during which time he became, quote, "abusive and insulting to those whom he disliked or disapproved of. He was much liked by most of the officers in the regiment, and they took care of him in such periods." The cause of these drinking bouts seemed to be related to his wife, Catherine, who was not very strong and who did not belong on the frontier. He called her Kate or Kitty, logical diminutives. He also called her Pinky and Goose, names that might be simply affectionate or could have originated during some private moment. However, he had often referred to her as Frabby, Frabble, Frabbelina, and at least once as Frabbelina of Gay Street, which is to say the least uncommon. It might be the name of a dramatic or fictional character from the time of their courtship. She lost 4 of their 5 children, quote, following the music of the cavalry trumpet, as Benteen expressed it. All 4 died of spinal meningitis, a disease from which he himself suffered, so he said. If indeed he was afflicted with the tubercular variety, as opposed to the influenzal meningitis, he could have transmitted the disease. And if this was so, as Mills points out, if Benteen knew that he himself had caused the deaths of those 4 children, it must be regarded as an important clue to his personality. In 1887, he was court-martialed for unmilitary behavior of various sorts. Quote, charge first, drunk on duty in violation of the 38th Article of War. Specification first, in this, that Major Frederick W. Benteen, 9th Cavalry, when in command of the post of Fort Duchesne, Utah, was found drunk. That at Fort Duchesne, Utah, on or about the 25th day of September, 1886. Specifications 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th were identical, only the dates changed. While in command of Fort Duchesne, he was found drunk on or about September 27th, October 10th, November 10th, November 11th, November 12th. November must have been a difficult month. Quote, charge the second. Conduct unbecoming an officer or a gentleman. Specification. In this, that Major Frederick W. Benteen, 9th U.S. Cavalry, did, when in command of the post of Fort Duchesne, Utah, conduct himself in a scandalous manner in the post-trader's store, using obscene and profane language, taking off his clothes to quarrel with citizens, and exposing his person. This to the dishonor and disrepute of the military service at Fort Duchesne, Utah, on or about the 11th day of November, 1886. To each charge, Benteen pleaded not guilty. His trial began February 2nd, 1887. And we will end there before we jump into the trial. So we will end right there today. I hope you guys are still enjoying the read. We will be back shortly with another video to pick up right where we left off. So we'll talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.